My sister and her husband went on an overnight trip. They left their teenage son at home. He was more than old enough to be home alone. He had everything he needed and a way to get in contact with whomever he needed to if something came up. I was auntie on duty. Call me if something arises and you're not sure what to do. I got a call Friday night. Auntie, Mom says no company and I can't go to anybody else's house. I feel like they're overreacting. And I'm sure they'd be okay if you gave me permission to go by a friend's house. I asked who the friend was. Found out it was a girl. Asked the only question that really mattered. Are her parents home? And when I found out that they were not, I gave the only answer that was appropriate. Boy, hell no. Why you playing on my damn phone? You know, if your mother wouldn't allow for you to have her over when she's not home, you don't have no damn business at her parents' house when they're not home. And as expected, he wanted to know why. My answer was simple. It's better to be safe than sorry. I don't care how long you and she have been friends, how well you feel like you know her, how trustworthy you believe she is, or how trustworthy I know you are. There are just too many ways that a situation like that can go wrong. Then I told him about the high school basketball star that his mother and I both knew, who spent 15 years of his life in prison instead of going to college on a full ride basketball scholarship that he'd earned, and going on to the NBA, which he was more than capable of doing, because he also had accepted an invitation to a girl's house when her parents were not home. And while he was adamant that nothing happened that they weren't both in agreement with, she was adamant that something happened that she absolutely did not want, that she'd said no, she'd said stop, and he'd proceeded full steam ahead. 12 jurors believed her side of the story. And 15 years later, when she finally recanted and admitted that she'd made the story up because after she missed her menstrual cycle, there were 2 blue lines on the test, and saying that she'd been forced was a whole lot easier than telling her daddy that she'd been a willing participant. He was released, and eventually, after a very long fight, he was able to get his record cleared. But the issue was that he was 18 and she was 15. And in the state of New York, he was an adult and she was a child. So he'd committed a serious crime, done hard time, had his name on a registry. His whole and entire life turned upside down. All because he decided that he knew better than his parents. He decided he didn't need to follow the rule. Never, ever accept an invitation to a girl's home when her parents aren't there to supervise, or have a girl over to your home when your parents aren't there to supervise. Needless to say, my nephew decided that it was probably not worth the risk after all. And when he got to school on Monday, he was shocked and amazed to find this little girl who was his friend, who he trusted, had gone around the school and told everyone that he was either afraid, a punk, or gay, because he wouldn't come over to her house because her parents weren't home and his parents wouldn't allow it. And when he got home, he called me. He was rather upset, and I cautioned him. I told him that a little girl who didn't appreciate the fact that he'd looked out for her safety as much as he'd looked out for his own wasn't the type of girl he wanted to be friends with in the first place. And by my estimation, he dodged a bullet. Imagine his surprise when only a few short weeks later, that same little girl and several little boys all had a itch they couldn't quite scratch, a burning for which they needed antibiotics. And she had 2 blue lines on a test. And my nephew called me and said, Auntie, boy, am I glad that I didn't go over her house that day. I really dodged a bullet. These are the kinds of lessons that parents teach their children and aunties impart on their nephews. But these lessons are even more important when the color lines are blurred. Because the high school basketball star who had his life ruined when I was a kid looked like me and had that lie told on him by a girl who didn't look like him. And the friend that my nephew had been invited over by didn't look like him either. These are the lessons that Black parents tell their Black children for their safety. These are the rules, the lessons that we have to teach our Black sons. These are the rules that we pray will ensure that our babies make it back home. Don't be the only one. You leave together, you return together. If one person's ready to go, everybody is leaving. Always have a way home and a plan B. Make sure somebody knows where you are at all times. And even if they are your friend, don't ever get too comfortable.